The Obama administration has again extended the deadline for the Iranian nuclear talks, as they have again and again. So tonight, a few thoughts, if I may, on deadlines and red lines, at least as recognized and interpreted by this administration. Incredibly, it was 3 years ago that President Obama sternly, almost theatrically, warned Iran that, quote, the clock is ticking. Perhaps the ticking to which Mr. Obama referred is really that of the doomsday clock, which is ticking ever closer to Armageddon since he took office. Ticking or not, it's now been more than 500 days since the negotiations began. 500 days. Over that period, U.S. officials have made incredibly nearly 70 transatlantic flights to be at the table for those talks, only to miss yet another deadline, the fifth missed deadline. But deadline's not the only self-imposed line ignored by the administration. The president famously proclaimed that Syria's use of chemical weapons would, quote, be a red line for us, and he vowed consequences. Of course, there were none. When faced with tough action against Syrian President Assad, Mr. Obama simply instead cowered and turned to Putin for help. But Mr. Obama's self-imposed lines didn't stop there, vowing to, quote, degrade and destroy the Islamic State in Syria and Iraq, a claim he repeated incredibly yesterday, followed by these comments.
The battle for hearts and minds is going to be a generational struggle. It's ultimately not going to be won or lost by the United States alone. It will be decided by the countries and the communities that terrorists like ISIL target.
And that made sense, apparently, to the president himself. A generational struggle. So much for degrade and destroy. The president's strategy now seems to be more like irritate and retreat. The president's refusal to stand by his deadlines and to enforce red lines only, of course, emboldens our adversaries and diminishes our position in the world. And this latest missed deadline in the Iranian nuclear talks only stands to accelerate the process. Our quotation of the evening now, this one on the administration's harangues, admonishments, and endless warnings to countries. The quotation by one of my favorite geopolitical thinkers and national security analyst, Kathleen Troya McFarlane, known generally as KT around here. She said, quote, empty threats are often worse than saying nothing at all. It's like leading from behind. Eventually, no one thinks you're leading at all, and after a while, no one is even listening. It's starting to feel like a while has arrived.